waited outside for a bit until Masaki emerged with a small bag slung over his arm. Get in. I interrupted Masaki and gestured to the passenger seat. Masaki hopped in without the slightest word of protest, much to my surprise. We grabbed some grub at a Chinese noodle joint near Nakano Station's south entrance before taking the Ome Highway over towards Shinjuku, driving parallel to the trolley tracks. Masaki answered without so much as looking my way. His left wrist was still bandaged. Masaki swallowed his words and fell silent. We drove by a bus stop on Honcho Street. Masaki finally looked at me. He hesitated for a moment. Huh? So that hadn't been his plan? I was a suspect in Mayu Kamizono's homicide. It was likely innocent, and I'd assumed that incident was the impetus for a suicide attempt. But in hindsight, that was a pretty weak motive for killing yourself. It didn't appear like Masaki and Mayu Kamizono had been dating. Would he really have chosen to take his life over losing an acquaintance and being suspected of murder? And again, his mental state wasn't the best, according to Kaharu. Maybe that was motive enough for him. But in that case, that wouldn't mean his suicide attempt had been a mere whim. Which didn't add up when considering he wouldn't have had time to cancel his lease to tie up all loose ends in his life, were that the truth. We passed by Yodobashi. Masaki shattered the silence. I parked in front of the agency and beckoned Masaki inside. Having him take a seat, I procured an envelope and stationery. Where did I put that thing? Pretty sure it's one of my pockets. Searched my jacket pockets and retrieved a piece of paper with a note written on it. Then I copied its contents onto the stationery. Gee, that's some real motivation there, buddy. Oh well, not that I care. Keeping this guy where I could see him was all that really mattered. Put the stationery in the envelope before packing that envelope inside an even bigger envelope that already contained some documents. There, all set. I set the envelope down in front of Masaki. I deliberately concealed Toji's gender. Masaki took the envelope and got on his feet. Masaki left the office without saying another word. Masaki took the Yamate line from Shinjuku to Ueno. He was extremely familiar with this area. After all, he'd once worked at a nearby gallery and had also frequented the art museum in Ueno Park. However, he'd rarely needed to visit the east side of the station, so he was surprised by just how crowded it was. Reiji had told him this so-and-so Aoki couldn't be missed. Finding them in this throng was like looking for a needle in a haystack. Thus, Masaki leaned against the wall and observed the people coming and going. Office workers decked out in coats hectically passed through. The station expelled them into Ueno until they were out of sight. Meanwhile, it swallowed up the crowd surging from the city proper. Masaki scanned them all but didn't spot anyone who fit the bill, not in his mind at least. Based on the Reiji statement, Aoki most likely stuck out like a sore thumb in some way. As such, Masaki searched the crowd for others who appeared to be waiting for someone. There were several of those, but only two looked like the type who would have dealings with a detective. The question is, which one of them should I ask? The takoyaki vendor who looks like a killer. Yeah, walk up to Takoyaki Man. Or the scary one-armed silver-haired lady. Of course we're going up to the lady. Creepy lady. She was scanning the area like a falcon. Her left sleeve was slapping in the wind, meaning either her arm was in the coat itself or... Their eyes met. Masaki knew without a shadow of a doubt that her blood-red eyes were staring straight into his soul. Damn right they are. His grip on the envelope tightened without him even realizing it. Masaki looked away. She must be the one. But what if I'm wrong? Whatever she was, it was plain as day that she'd lived in the seedy underbelly of the world. So if we got on her bad side...
Oi.
Masaki heard a voice just a stone's throw away from his ear. He hastily jumped back. Silver-haired woman had snuck right up on him.
貴様、さっきから何をしている？
いや、
怪しいな。辺りを物色していた様子からすると、スリか痴漢か？
そんなわけないでしょ。
どうだか。
The woman grabbed Masaki's right arm and pinned him against the wall.
この辺りでは見ない顔だし、どこかから。
The woman snatched the envelope from Masaki.
これは時坂のところか。
それは青木さんという人に渡すようにと。
ああ、なるほど。
The woman released Masaki, leaving him to plummet straight to the ground.
お前が時坂の使いか。
正木智之です。じゃあ、あなたが青木さん。
Masaki nursed his right arm with his debilitated left hand.
青木当時だ。まったく。こんな素人を雇うつもりか、あいつは。
Toji grumbled as she opened the envelope.
土人形の資料か。
Toji produced a small envelope from within.
君へのことづけのようだな。
俺に？
The envelope read, to Masaki. This must be the next part of the test. What will it have me do now? Masaki opened the envelope. That was a note and 300 yen bills. He read the note.
牛肉80万円、春菊1玉、長ネギ、豆腐1丁、
Give him his fucking grocery list.
卵3つ、椎茸
すき焼きだな。
ですよね。
He's asked me to buy all this, isn't he? I should have known. Masaki went to the shopping district near Kichijoji Station. He was out shopping for the groceries he'd been asked to buy.
あとは卵か。
Masaki checked the list, clutched between his left fingers. Never imagined it'd be this inconvenient to only have one usable hand. However, since he was already carrying bags with his right hand, there was literally nothing more he could do. Masaki turned around to find Yukari in her school uniform.
どうも。
どうしてこんなところへ？
いきなりお使いに使われているんですよ。
お使い？私が兄に頼んでいたのですが。
すき焼き？
ええ、正木さんの退院をお祝いするつもりだったのですが。
いえ、どうせ暇だったんでいいんですよ。
Masaki left out the bit about how this was all part of his hazing.
あ、お荷物をお持ちします。
大丈夫ですよ。
でも。
Yukari looked at Masaki's left hand.
では、これだけお願いします。
Masaki handed over a relatively light bag of shallots.
全部買われましたか？
いや、あとは卵だけです。
わかりました。では、あちらのお店に行きましょう。
Yukari took off, leaving Masaki trailing behind her. It was already evening by the time I drove home. Still some time until Masaki is set to return, so I think I'll explore. But where? Oh, y'all already know where? Y'all already know where? I told you we're locking in. It's Moon World time, baby.
いらっしゃい、時坂くん。
What's up, girl? Kyoko was there at Moon World, the same old greeting as ever.
コーヒーを頼む。
食べるものは？
今日はいいよ。これからすき焼きだから。
あら、贅沢ね。
一人新人の助手を雇うんだな。ささやかながらその歓迎会さ。
へえ、そうなんだ。はい、コーヒー。
Kyoko set a coffee mug before me.
新人の助手ってどんな子？
どんな子って。
あら、あゆむちゃんじゃないんだ。
Oh yeah, no. I was gonna be so pissed. She's gonna find out, oh yeah, Reiji just hired an assistant. What do you mean?
当たり前だろう。
I knew Sato had been dreaming of becoming my assistant for ages now, but she was still in school. Not that I had any plans of hiring her even if she graduated, of course.
ゆかりが拾ってきたんだよ。
猫？
まあ似たようなもんか。ちょっと訳ありでな。俺の近くに置いて監視することにしている。
へえ、いい男？
なんだって女はそういうとこばかり気にするかね。
焼いてる？
バカ言え。
I sipped away at my coffee.
あら、もしかしたらゆかりちゃんがなびくかもしれないじゃない？
れはないだろ
ただいま戻りました。
う。おかえり。って、
To greet Yukari, only to find Masaki was right there with her.
商店街で一緒になったんです。
いけませんよ兄さん。お使いをお客様にさせては。
客じゃねえだろ
今晩の主賓には変わりありませんよ。
Yukari went to her room with those words, leaving me, Masaki, and the bags of groceries behind.
お邪魔してます。
う。はあ、買ったもんは台所に置いてきてくれ。
わかりました。
Masaki did as I asked. What has my life become? I slumped onto the sofa. God, I'm dying for a smoke right now. I knew Yukari would never let me hear the end of it, so I decided to go outside. I went out, leaned against my car, and lit a cigarette. Masaki suddenly showed up after I'd been dragging on it for a while.
今日の試験は何だったんですか？
なんでもないさ。ただあいつと顔をつないでおく必要があったから合わせただけだ。
何者ですか？あの人。
ジャーナリストだそうだ。その前が確か上野を根城にしていた裏組織の幹部だったかな。
よくそんな人が知り合いにいますね。
警察のお偉いさんからの紹介だよ。今調べていることをよく知っている人物だ。
はあ。
Masaki sounded totally lost. Oh, maybe that was only to be expected, considering I'd left so much out. Reminds me, I need to ask him about the Blessed Congregation. For all I know, he might have ties to them.
寒くないんですか？
However, that was an interrogation best left for another day. The sukiyaki would just go to waste if it was soured by such an uncomfortable inquisition after all.
少し体を冷やした方が温かいものを食うのにちょうどいいんだよ。
自分も山奥育ちですけど、そんなこと聞いたことはありませんよ。
Yeah, you grew up in the mountains, didn't you, bud? I ignored Masaki's comment, shoved my cigarette into my car's ashtray, and went back inside. A hot pot was boiling atop the charcoal brazier.
で、なんで俺の部屋なんだよ。
今のテーブルの上に七輪を置いたら高くなってしまいますから。
だからってな。匂いが残ったら寝にくいだろう。換気したら冷えるだろうし。
いい夢が見られそうじゃないですか。
お前は黙ってろ。
Piss off. I shot Masaki a death glare.
はいはい、喧嘩しないでくださいね。
Yukari distributed the eggs in bowls.
卵の殻はこちらへどうぞ。
I cracked my egg and placed the shell on a plate Yukari had set aside. I'd been lying if I said these didn't bring back some bad memories. I would have starved to death long ago if I'd let that bother me.
じゃ、食うか。
I snatched up a perfectly cooked piece of meat.
まさきさんも遠慮なさらずにどうぞ。
はい、いただきます。
兄さんは肉ばかり食べないでくださいね。
子供か、俺は。
Not that I was one to talk, my bowl had nothing but meat in it. I returned to the living room after finishing dinner. Yukari was washing the dishes in the kitchen. Masaki was just on his way back from bringing her the hot pot.
そこに座れ。
Masaki sat on the sofa across from mine.
何ですか？
一応仮採用という形で雇うことにする。今日はここの客間に泊まってもらうが、明日からは新宿の事務所で寝泊まりするように。
は
Masaki didn't sound particularly enthused. No surprise there. I had decided all of this without asking him after all. Normally I'd have whipped the guy into shape by threatening to throw him back onto the streets unless he showed some motivation, but that was out of the question in this case. Though I'd hired him pretty much solely to keep an eye on him, I knew it'd be a big problem if he couldn't actually work with the
お
dam.
前さん、自動車免許は持っているか？
あ。いえ、戦地で運転したことはありますが。
じゃあ俺と同じか。
時坂さん、免許もないのにあの車を運転して
違う。免許は去年取った。同じなのは戦地で運転していたってことだよ。
どこへ行ってたんですか？
満州だよ。終戦前に戻ってきたからシベリアには行かなかったがね。
自分は南方でした。終戦間際の戦闘で部隊は自分以外全滅しましたよ。
Masaki sounded dead, like he was merely reciting off a textbook. Not that I would have expected him to have any happy memories of the battlefield, of course.
兄さん、七輪の炭は火鉢の中に入れておきますからね。
Yukari popped out from the kitchen.
なあ。あとそうだ。今日はこいつが泊まっていくから客間を開けておいてくれ。
わかりました。
なんだ？下着でも干してたのか？
もうに。
Yukari left the living room in a huff. She acts like I'm the child here. Got to my feet to pick up the brazier. Yukari had sit
明
down.
日契約やら何やらの念書を書いてもらうからな。守秘義務もあるから面倒なんだよ。
わかりました。
I left the room once Masaki nodded. Looks like I'll have to research what goes into making a contract. This was my first time hiring someone after all. Yeah, don't worry, I'll get your contract all written up tomorrow. Anyway, how do I write a contract? The living room was alive with the sound of the radio. The table was set for 3.
どうぞお酒に召し上がっていてください。
Yukari brought over 2 sunny side-up eggs.
ああ、そうしよう。
いただきます。
Masaki gave a little bow. It's like he knows his manners.
昨晩にも言ったが、今日はいろいろとやってもらうことがあるから。
わかりました。
兄さん、事務所にあるお布団はきちんと干していますか？
ああ、ちょくちょく使っていたから大丈夫だろ
Normally I just slept on the sofa with a blanket.
シーツくらいは取り替えてくださいね。
う。わかったよ。
It seemed I couldn't afford to be a total cheapskate despite my best efforts.
さてと。
Yukari got out of her chair when she'd finished her toast.
それでは、私はそろそろ行きますので。
わかってるよ。いってらっしゃい。
Yukari left the living room.
お前が片付けておけよ。
Please clean up after yourselves. Yep, you got it. You're cleaning up, fucko. I turned to Masaki.
なんとなくそんな気はしていましたよ。
Despite his belly aching, Masaki did as he was told and cleaned up after breakfast. Guess I'd better get ready to hit the road. Masaki and I took the train to Shinjuku and headed for the office.
こんなところにあって、家賃は高くないんですか？
昔事件を解決したお礼に格安で使わせてもらってるんだよ。
No way I could afford to run an office right in the heart of Shinjuku otherwise.
まずは履歴書だな。紙は用意したからできる範囲で記入してくれ。
わかりました。
Masaki leaned forward on the sofa and got to work on his task. I decided where I was and quietly watched him. Tomoki Masaki, B, 1926. Same age as me, huh? Oh, does B mean born? Suddenly stopped when he reached current address.
実家や本籍地でも構わねえよ。まあ、現住所であるならこの事務所でもいいけどな。
じゃあそうします。ここの住所は？
I took out a business card and set it down right in front of Masaki.
一応何かあった時の緊急連絡先ってのを聞いておきたいんだが。
さあ、もう10年以上連絡も取っていませんか？
He told Yukari he had no family, but I guess he meant that metaphorically.
そう危険なことをさせるつもりもないんだが、万が一ということもあるからな。
病院でいいですか？あそこにはお世話になっていますか？
そうか。わかった。
So his lips are sealed when it comes to his roots, huh? Might need to look into those, in that case.
それが終わったら守秘義務契約書だな。職務上知り得たことを外部にばらされたくはないからな。
別にバラすような相手もいませんから。
秘密を聞き出そうという人間は知らず知らずのうちに近づいてくるんだよ。
は
Masaki signed the
あ
documents.
とはそうだな。契約中に起こった厄介事に関しては
あ、ただし
これ以前のこと。契約外の事柄については個人の責任になるからな。
ええ、わかりました。
That about covered everything with the contract and whatnot. Am I missing anything? Alright, I should explain the boarding situation to him.
棚にある本や資料には触れないようにしてくれ。そっちに給湯室。
I think. I opened the closet to be safe, fortunately finding the piled futon sitting right where I'd left it. It looked so dirty at first. Upon closer inspection, I realized the sheets were a sickly yellow. As for the blanket, well, I'd be fine as long as I aired it out. What else? Oh yeah, I need to get some fuel for the oil
ちょ
heater.
っと買い物に行ってくるから留守番を頼む。ないとは思うが、客が来た場合は机の上に要件を書き込む紙があるから。
Flipped through the form and left a summer Masaki couldn't miss.
買い物だったら自分が。
いいから座ってろ。部屋の中のものには勝手に手をつけるなよ。
わかりました。
Picked up the documents and left once Masaki nodded. Masaki remained on the sofa for a while after Reiji left. Couldn't fathom why the man had hired him out of the blue. If I had to guess, I'd say it's because he suspects me. Reiji had been rather nosy about his emergency contact after all. If Masaki hadn't known any better, he could have sworn Reiji was reading him like an open book. But that being said, it didn't change how Masaki still had nowhere else to go. He cited his left hand. Dying seemed like the simplest solution, but in the end he'd failed at even that. Perhaps I should just tell him everything and ask for help. Still, that comes with its own risks. For now, it'd probably be best to say that Tomoyuki Masaki to stay as Tomoyuki Masaki for at least a little longer. Masaki rose to his feet with that conclusion. His primary order of business was checking out his new temporary residence. First, he went over to the kitchenette, poured water into the kettle, and turned on the stove. Since he knew it would take a while to boil, he got a broom from the closet and began sweeping, picking papers off the ground and setting them on the desk all the while. He did his best not to read them. Part of it was because of Reiji's instructions, but mostly he just wasn't that interested to begin with. If he didn't know anything, he couldn't leak anything either. Masaki wanted a dried up towel and scrubbed the table. Just then he heard a knock. Client?
Hi.
Masaki was in charge of washing the place, meaning he had no choice but to respond. Thus he opened the door, hoping he wouldn't find debt collectors demanding money that he couldn't provide.
こちら時坂探偵事務所で合っているでしょうか。
ええ、まあ。
A woman around Masaki's age was waiting on the other side of the door. Is that someone from his past?
あ、よかった。何度か来ていたんですが。
The woman
探
sighed.
偵本人は席を外していますが。
はい、失礼します。
今お茶を入れますから、そちらにお座りください。
お構いなく。
Good thing I already had a pot on the fire, thought Masaki as he headed for the kitchenette. Strange though, it's just me, or have we met before? Yeah, now, see that's the thing. When they first introduced her to the store, this person, like, oh, I'm looking for someone, like, she seemed familiar, right? But I kept trying to piece it from, like, previous games. I'm thinking, like, is she someone from the first game? Maybe Cartagra? But now I'm like, no, I'm thinking that the way it sounds, I'm starting to think that's Megari, right? Potentially. So I looked around his age, and like the more I hear her talk, I'm like, nah, I think that's Megari right there. She just hasn't recognized him yet. I'm certain, like, once he asks for a name, he's gonna be like, oh, shit. Where? Is it at the hospital? Or perhaps even work?
お待たせしました。
Masaki made his way back to the sofa, carrying a round tray loaded with steaming
探
teacups.
偵への依頼でよろしいんですよね。
ええ、実は。
あ、待ってください。
Masaki interrupted the woman who quickly got the form and a pencil off the desk.
どうぞ。
はい。人を探してほしいのですが。
人探しですか。
Masaki wrote that down.
誰を探すかは後で探偵が来た時に改めてお願いします。
田舎から出てきて、今はホテル暮らしなんですが。
構いませんよ。お名前は。
あ、高宮めぐりです。
Yeah.
グリコ。
え
Masaki was nowhere to be found by the time I returned with kerosene cans and new sheets.
なんやろう。
Set the kerosene and sheets down. There were 2 teacups on the table, both of which were still warm to the touch, albeit barely. Looks like he played host to a guest in my absence. The fact neither of them are still around must mean. Just then I noticed papers stacked on the table. One on top was blank. Since I'd left them on the desk, they must have been used. Flipped through the stack. Navy blue paper was sitting several pages down. It was carbon paper used for making copies of documents. Flipped that too to find words engraved on the paper beneath it. That was it. Nothing else was legible, perhaps indicating Masaki hadn't scribbled very hard. Whatever the case, it still left me without a clue to the client's identity. Who was searching for whom? Had Masaki left with the client, or... Scratched my head. I seriously need to drive the ABCs of being a detective into the sky. Then again, if someone had asked if I had had those drilled into me, I wasn't confident I could say yes with a straight face.
本当に出てきてよかったの？
Guriko, or rather Megari, gave Masaki an uncertain look as the pair strolled by Shinjuku Station.
あそこにいて探偵にいろいろ聞かれると面倒だから。あと俺のことはマサキと呼んでくれ。
名前まで変えてたんだ。奈々子さんからも行方がわからなくなったって聞いていたけど、 見つかってよかった。
Nanako said she had lost track of it. So is he actually the doctor's son then, right? Because Nanako wouldn't have kept close tabs on the rich boy or the heir to the whatever family. But Nanako would have kept tabs on the doctor's boy, obviously. But maybe, well, that's the thing. It goes back to like he had like all the art supplies in his apartment, right? And that makes sense for the heir boy. I hate that I don't remember any of their names. I can remember Meguri. I can remember his obsessive sister named Karen. And obviously I can remember Satsuki. But for some reason I can't remember the two boys' names, even though they're like the two that was like very important to that situation from what I could tell. And that's the thing, if Nanako had been Mayu's mother, like I had originally theorized. So like it seems like right now the signs for me seem to point to Doctor's boy. But it's that one key thing of like, for one, his appearance in general, but also the whole thing he did art and whatnot. So the real question is, whoever he may be, and see, they're purposely not telling you what his name is, right? They're purposely not telling you what his name is. You cut to all of a sudden they're, together with each other. He's just like, oh, by the way, call me Masaki. Don't call me the other name. And we're sitting here like, oh, but what is the other name? Because it feels like it should be obvious it's the rich boy, but I feel like it's Dr. Boy. I feel like signs are pointing to Dr. Boy. I don't know why he would then have art supplies though. That's the one thing that throws me off of it being Dr. Boy. But all the other surrounding pieces seem to point to Dr. Boy. Thus far. Nanako Sawashiro. She was the first one who found Masaki after he changed his name and gone to Tokyo. Masaki had told her the reason he was living under an alias and why he didn't want to return home. Okay. However, Meguri's attitude indicated Nanako likely hadn't said a word of that to anyone else, perhaps out of consideration to him. So that would once again lend credence to Nanako being the mother of Mayu, right? Because that would make sense why not... well, okay. That's the thing, we don't know... Nanako didn't have a picture of Masaki specifically. She had a picture of whoever Masaki's father is, right? That's who she had a picture of. She has a picture of his father, and his father bears a striking resemblance to him. That was the whole situation. But I think it's more likely for Nanako to have a picture of Dr. Boy's father than to have a picture of Rich Boy's father. If it is Nanako that I'm assuming is the mother of Mayu, once again, this is all just going off assumptions.
ナナコさんから聞いてる？その
Aw, Meguri. I'm sorry to hear that.
少しだけなら
Been driven to attempted suicide by that very idea, or rather, the notion of being dragged back to the settlement. Oh, no, I thought Meguri was getting into arranged marriage. It's... Okay, so no... Then it would be Rich Boy. If he himself is being put into an arranged marriage, then he would have to be the rich boy, right? He would have to be. Because that's the big influential family. It wouldn't make sense for Dr. Boy to be put into an arranged marriage. That spoke volumes as to how badly he feared returning there.
それでね、 私が選ばれたんだけど。
Oh,
グリコ。
okay. So I guess she is technically part of the arranged marriage. Cool. All right. Yeah, I'm sure you're real torn up about that, Meguri. If this is in fact Rich Boy. If it's Dr. Boy, totally different case, but we know you had feelings for Rich Boy. Meguri nodded and hung her head.
だから来たんだけど、どう？
どうと言われても。
I'm planning on getting married, arranged or not. It would have been so simple to make that declaration. No, he had to tell her that. And yet Masaki couldn't bring himself to say it. Now faced with such an old friend as Meguri.
そりゃ結論はすぐに出せないわよね。
Meguri smiled despondently.
悪いね。
突然の話だったら驚くのは当然だもの。
だろうね。
もっとも私の前にも候補の人はいたみたいだけどね。
Though Masaki had known they wanted him to return to the village and get married so he could succeed the family, this was the first he ever heard it. Okay, so that locks it in. It's Rich Boy. Well, it's probably Rich Boy. There is still the off chance it could be Dr. Boy because he was in line to succeed the family as well. But I feel like more so than not, it's Rich Boy.
いろいろと事情があってダメになったと聞いてるけど。
村の人間？
違ったみたい。どういう経緯で選ばれたのかは知らないけど、私も含めて。
Well, I'm sure the original candidate was supposed to be the real Satsuki, but then you started getting freaky with the body double, and we see how that situation ended.
選ぶのはやっぱりじいさんか親父だろうな。
Yeah, if it's the grandfather or father, yeah, it's gotta be Rich Boy. Really that desperate to have me continue the bloodline, huh? Here I thought they would have given up on me after all this time. First candidate had likely been someone connected to the family business. When that had fallen through, they settled for Meguri, a local, instead. Masaki was sick of being made a puppet for his family, for the village.
グリコ。悪いけど俺は。
分かってる。前もそうだったのね。
Meguri put on a smile. However, looked a little forced and forlorn.
やっぱり。
すまない。
いいよ。その代わりと言ったらなんだけどさ、東京案内してくれないかしら。
まあ、そのくらいだったら。
Figured it was the least he could do to make it up to her.
この辺りに伊勢丹があったわよね。あとは銀座にも行きたいし。
グリコ、お前、最初からそれが目的だったんじゃないだろうな。
Meguri was positively beaming at the moment. All the doom and gloom that shrouded her visage before had completely melted away.
そんなこと少しはあるけど、でも探してたのだって本当だからね。
ここが大阪だったら恵比寿橋にでも案内するのにな。
It just makes me wonder is Mayu's mother someone who is tied to that original story in any capacity? In the story of the village with all the kids and whatnot? Because I kept thinking it would be Nanako since she was slightly older than the rest of the high school kids. So she could have a kid who would be a bit younger than the other adults. Especially since they said that Masaki is around the same age as Reiji, right? So that means they're both like pushing 30, right? Because they were born in 26, it's currently 56. Oh, no, actually it's currently 57, isn't it? It doesn't show me the current date and time on the saves, does it? It just tells me 12/16, it doesn't tell me the actual. I'm pretty sure it's 57 actually. Present day is 57. First game took place in 56. So yeah, if he's about 31, if Nanako was older than them and had a kid, she could potentially be a nurse. Well, to be a nurse, you probably have to be at least 18, right? So if Masaki is 31, then that would mean for Mayu to at least be, at the very least, be 18, an adult, which I think she was older, but to at least be 18, right? She would have had to have been. She would have had to if for her to be Nanako's daughter, she would have at least had to have the kid, you know, when she was 13 to be 18. Wait, when I'm starting to lose the plot. Hold up. She would have had to have the kid when Rich Boy Masaki was 13. But we saw when he was like 17, 18, Nanako, there was no sign she had a kid, right? No signs of that. So I think I think for now, I'm going to take my focus away from that fact. I kept trying to really focus in on who Mayu's mother could potentially be, but I'm thinking that's something I don't really need to focus on too much now. Now that's pretty all but confirmed that Masaki is the rich boy. Because at this point then, if Masaki is 31 and Mayu was at least an adult, at the very least 18, definitely older. Actually, that's not listed in the log anywhere, is it? That's not the button I wanted. Where's my log? Not that log. Notes. My notebook. Yes, notebook. Reiji Mayu Kamizano. Do we have an age on her? I mean, she worked as a nurse for 2 years, right? Okay, so she worked for about 2 years, which means she had to have at least been 20, right? At the very least, she had to be 20. So what I'm assuming is whoever her mother isn't important, and instead is just someone who once lived in the village and eventually moved away, but someone significantly older than our main group of childhood friends. Okay. So many fucking lines now. Our relationship chart has expanded significantly. Where does Masaki fit into this? Reiji is observing Masaki. Yukari saved Masaki. Masaki was close with Mayu and a former patient of Makoto. Ooh, that's possible. Now that I'm remembering, like, oh yeah, Fumiya and Chizuru, right? Fumiya and Chizuru. If they see Masaki, like clearly he's grown up. No one's seen him since his younger days. Otherwise, Meguri would have recognized him if they had. So, if I'm thinking Masaki, maybe we get something out of Chizuru and Fumiya seeing Masaki. Well, that's the thing. That's interesting. Well, I guess maybe Fumiya. Well, that's the thing. Like I said, Masaki's probably unrecognizable because people's last memories of him were when he was a kid. So there's a chance Fumiya could have seen Masaki while he was comatose, but still wouldn't have recognized him. If even Meguri, the girl who had a huge crush on him when they were younger, didn't even recognize him right away. Didn't even realize who he was at first. So that's definitely possible. And that's the thing. If Masaki is Rich Boy, Fumiya wouldn't have recognized him, right? because they never really introduced, right? I think like there were a few passing moments. If he would have been the doctor's boy, then Fumiya and Chizuru, or let's forget Chizuru, but Fumiya at the hospital probably would have recognized him at that point if he was the doctor's boy. Like, oh shit, that's my cousin, right? But if it's Rich Boy, it makes more sense that Fumiya wouldn't recognize him because I don't think Fumiya was ever really introduced to Rich Boy. I don't believe, anyway. Okay. Okay. Right, and there's a lot of characters don't pop up here because this is all at Eiji's point of view. Like, I was sitting here like, where's Yukiko? Because we got Fuyumi up here, and we got Yukari being friends with someone down here. I'm like, where's Yukiko? Alright, but Eiji doesn't know who Yukiko is. He's met her, but he doesn't know who she is. True. Okay, that's enough theorizing. Let's get back to the story, shall we? I returned home in search of Masaki, but he wasn't there. Son of a bitch. Now he's gone missing. Where the hell could he be? Guess just spend some more time searching. Where, though? I can't go to Moonworld this time? Come on. Let's see. If we're looking for Masaki, right? Specifically, Masaki. This isn't about where we just want to spend some time off, otherwise you know we'd be hitting up Moonworld. The hospital, that's not someplace... Because, like, obviously, we, the reader, have some insight to, oh, he's showing Meguri around. So... The hospital, not likely. The girls' academy, not likely. So we're left with either the park, which I don't think would be a place Masaki would want to take her to. Like, hey, let me show you the place where I tried to kill myself, right? So maybe Ueno? Maybe Ueno? I'm feeling Ueno. Swung by Ueno Station. Though the air was crowded, I didn't see Masaki anywhere. Guess he's not here. Seriously, what got into him? There were many people in my life who really knew what Masaki looked like, so I decided to find one person who did, Toji. She looks so unique that I doubted I'd have trouble picking her out in a crowd. Well, speak of the devil. Toji was chatting up a takoyaki vendor at his food stall. Takoyaki man. I approached them and spoke up.
Toji, ちょっといいか?
ああ、お前か。ちょっと待ってくれ。
So has Toji been here this whole time? Could I pursue something with Toji? Because I'm not gonna lie, if I can. I'm still locking into Moonworld for the rest of this run, but you know, maybe I come back to this game once the playthrough's over and see where the night takes us. Toji turned her attention right back to the vendor as soon as she'd finished addressing me.
だから私にはどうすることもできないと言っているだろう。
お前さん、偉いさんにも顔が利くって話だろう。
Doesn't matter.
そもそも勝手に道路を占拠しているのはそちらだろう。工事の邪魔になるから移動してほしいだけだというのに。
It's not like the guy was getting evicted.
俺はよ、ずっとここでジュージュー焼いてきたんだ。戦前は神楽坂や九段下でやっていたこともあったが。
Thus the old man started doing what people his age did best, rambling on and on about the good old days.
俺がここで商売をしているから。
We can't get rid of Takoyaki guy.
守られてると言って。
Toji, I love you, but please have a heart for Takoyaki guy. Please. He's a core character. Pretty sure that's the epitome of an exaggeration. Though I didn't know the guy, I could smell his bullshit from a mile away.
きちんと許可を得ているのならば、工事終了後もここで商売することは保証されるはずだぞ。
俺は国家権力に尻尾振って生きていくなんざ我慢ならねえんだよ。
So in those savory terms, he was unlicensed.
どうせ俺たちのような虫けらはお偉いさんの命令には黙って従うしかねえ。
Please, I'm begging you, don't look at me to back you up.
それよりもうちの正樹を見なかったか?
I ignore the vendor for the time being.
まさき？ああ、あいつか。いや、この辺りでは見ていないな。
どうやら依頼人と一緒にいると思われるんだが。
依頼人？そういや少し前に 探偵を探していた人に。
どういう人間だった？
人を探していたようで、そこに貼ってある高城探偵事務所のチラシを眺めていたから。
Reiji gestured to a faded flyer on the takoyaki stall. Looking for someone. Matched what I'd found back in the office. But a woman, huh? Had a bad feeling about this.
わかった。もう少し探してみる。
ああ。